My name's Steve Miller. I've been practicing in my 8th year now. I primarily specialize in elder law and estate planning. I am a certified elder law attorney. There's about 500 or 600 certified elder law attorneys in the country. And so I primarily focus in that particular area for that reason, which typically involves pre-crisis and crisis planning regarding long-term care issues that come up for clients. I'm licensed to practice in Pennsylvania and Massachusetts. I have offices in the Lebanon, Lancaster area of Pennsylvania. Also, Montgomery County, I have an office that's a suburb of Philadelphia. And I also have an office in the Boston metro area in Framingham. So that's primarily what I've been focused. I also handle estates, probate matters, and that sort of thing. It's primarily a means to an end, but again, like I've tended to focus more recently on helping people plan for the really high cost of long-term care. So I was a political science undergrad, and I really wanted to basically figure out how to make changes in people's lives and just handle little matters, but to figure out like what really is causing people to stay up at night. And I got into law and graduated law school. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. I did about a year or so of door law, just taking any kind of case. In fact, I think when I first signed up for LegalMatch, I was doing that initially, but then I realized how underserved an area elder law was, and really threw everything I had into that area. And because people make wills and they think, okay, great, I know who's getting what, but then at the end, if they're spending $12,000 or $13,000 a month on long-term care, there's not a whole lot to give at the end. Or even if they do qualify, there are issues that come up with a state recovery program for costs paid for long-term care. So many issues that come up with elder law. That's kind of, I guess, I got into law because I like the complexity. I like the estate planning courses. Spending less time in court, although I have spent time in court, that is fascinating, but what I do now fits more with my personality and how I can help clients to make them feel more at ease, especially after a consultation. And now they see that you can actually plan for these things and they're not just left to chance. It's been this sort of gradual awakening as to how I can best help people based on my own skill set, personality, etc. So I always joke because I said, well, if you're looking for a bulldog in court, then actually my wife, who's not a lawyer, would probably be a better one. So although I do like, it's kind of, I represent clients in court sometimes, especially with guardianships and those types of things, but it's not the typical adversarial, certainly not the criminal case or PI, a personal injury case or anything like that. Where I'm best at helping clients with is first off, is to educate, because they don't know what they don't know. And so many times people think, well, I have Medicare, or I have this will, I'm set, like I have everything I need, right? And right off the bat, I have to explain to them, well, what is estate planning really, and what is elder law? Because they don't understand how estate planning works. And then when they get older, how the long-term care system works, why it's so expensive. And some of them are savvy enough to have maybe bought like long-term care insurance policy. But where I best fit in initially is by educating them. So I'll put on, well, this was pre-COVID, but I would put on seminars and do things to sort of just educate people in general. Of course, they have their own specific issues, and we need to talk about, no two cases are the same in that regard. But that's where I best help out, is to educate them on what the problems are. And then from there to really, propose, like, there's tons of solutions, but here's the best plan if we're pre-planning to ensure that if and when the time for Medicaid or whatever care needs are needing to be met, we've got a plan in place to be able to pay for it and not burn through the healthy spouse's assets. So it's really that education piece, but then when I really meet with a specific family, it's to become the tactician in terms of, here's the plan that's going to really serve you the best, what's really going to put your mind at ease. And then this can certainly be on the record, but it's sort of an aside. Back before COVID, when I was meeting with people more in person, I do meet with people in person now, but it's usually at their house or a place of their convenience. After the consult, you could physically see the weight come off from their shoulders, because they've realized that they've gone through this hell of going in and out of the hospital with their family member, and now there's a way we can actually plan for it. That's that peace of mind, that making them feel at ease. If I can get that in the end, I feel like I've really done my job. So my strengths are primarily in the areas of, as I mentioned, planning, designing, but my strengths are being upfront with the client as to what their problems are and helping them, again, educate them as to where they're at currently and figure out where it is they want to be. So for folks that are just pre-planning and trying to figure out how the system works and how they can structure their assets, my strengths are in showing them, here's how you want to structure it to make sure that we protect the most assets that we can, if that is indeed your goal, to help them understand why it's so important to have powers of attorney in place, to have a team working for you, a team of professionals, but also a team within your own family and friends, and get everybody on the same page. Most people that work with me, I think they'll point out my office, generally speaking, we typically don't bill hourly. So when it comes to working with other professionals, making sure their beneficiary designations are correct, that a trust is created, but now it's properly funded. So reaching out to those institutions, we're very hands-on with our clients, and we make sure that they don't just get shoved a set of documents and say, bye, we're done. Instead, we actually set up our engagements so that we get regular contact with them to ensure that the plan that we put together is actually still working. So yeah, that's really our strength, is just to have that sort of basis set up to have a constant sort of feedback with our clients. I would say, well, so my firm is not a bigger law firm. I have what I would consider to be a boutique practice that focuses on the specific issues of people that come in. So everything we do is customized. Everything we do is tailored directly to meet that client's needs. And I already mentioned some examples with how we do some of the trust planning. One other aspect I have with my practice is called life care planning. And what that actually does is it goes beyond just providing the legal and financial structure necessary to plan for long-term care properly. I actually have an employee who, her background is specifically in the long-term care industry. So she is the care advocate for the clients. I stay in my own lane. I don't pretend to I know enough to be dangerous, but in terms of the healthcare system and how to implement a care plan, that's not my ball of wax. Actually, my care coordinator, what she does is she works with the client no matter where that client goes, in the hospital, whether she's at home, dealing with a home health care agency, assisted living facility, skilled nursing, doesn't matter. She provides that care advocacy to make sure that the client's care needs are being met. That's what's special about my practice, is I don't just hear the problem that the client has and think, well, gosh, I guess I wish I could help you. My job is to try to figure out what the solution is. Sometimes I just refer it out, yes, of course, but this particular style of elder care it's newer, and it allows me to more holistically serve clients and not just in one ear out the other with some of their concerns. So I think that's what distinguishes my practice and how I like to operate, and how I try to come up with creative solutions for clients as best that I can.